I don't even know where to start, maybe with her. She was supposed to be my wife, the person I trusted most in this world. We'd been together for years, good years, bad years, a lot of shared memories. I thought I knew her inside out, but that was before I found out what she'd been doing behind my back. It all started a month ago, right after I told her I was deploying overseas. She wrapped her arms around me, crying softly, promising she'd be waiting when I got back. I hugged her tight, feeling that strange mixture of relief and worry. The night I left, I made sure to tell her to be careful, to stay safe. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving a piece of myself behind, trusting her with everything. But that trust shattered the day I came home early. I hadn't told her I was arriving a day sooner, just to surprise her. I wanted to see her face when I walked through that door. I figured she'd be waiting, maybe cooking dinner or sitting on the living room couch, just like she always did. Instead, I got an unsettling silence. The house was quiet, too quiet. No lights on, no smell of dinner, just a strange stillness that made my skin crawl. I quietly set my bag down, trying not to make a sound. My heart pounded against my chest. Then I heard it, muffled voices coming from our bedroom. I froze. My stomach dropped. I moved closer, ever so carefully, listening. That's when I heard her voice, unmistakably familiar, whispering to someone, and then I recognized the faint laugh. I pressed my ear against the doorframe. The sounds were unmistakable, her voice and another's, my best friend. They didn't know I was home. I could hear the rustling, the quick breaths, like they were trying not to get caught. I saw the faint glow from under the door, light from a phone maybe, or a small lamp. The evidence was right there, staring me in the face. I pushed the door open just enough to see inside. They were on the bed, tangled up, their clothes half off. It was like a punch to the stomach, so blatant, so outright. My wife's hair was messy, her lips parted in a breathless smile. My friend's face was close to hers, hands gripping her hips. I saw the way. They moved like they were in their own little world, completely oblivious that I was standing right there. My mind went blank. I felt every emotion collide: anger, betrayal, a sick sense of loss. I clenched my fists so tight I thought my nails might dig into my palms. I stepped back silently, my eyes fixed on them. I wanted to yell, to destroy everything in sight, but I just stood there, breathing heavily. That's when she looked up, saw me standing there. Her face drained of color. "You're home early," she stammered, trying to cover herself. Her eyes darted between me and my best friend, panic flooding her expression. I couldn't even speak at first. My jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. Instead, I turned and left the room, walking straight out the front door. My mind was spinning, trying to process what I'd just seen. The house, our house, felt like a prison now. I could still hear her voice in my head, the betrayal thick in every word. That night I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her lies, the way her hands had touched him so casually. I knew. Then that things couldn't go back to the way they were. I had to plan. I had to do something she wouldn't see coming. I didn't trust her, not anymore. And I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I've never felt a rage so hot, so pure as I did that night. The kind that makes your vision blur and your palms sweat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just knew I had to be smart about this, about them. Because if I didn't, I'd lose everything I cared about, even if what I cared about was already gone. But I wasn't just going to walk away. Not after this. Not after she and my best friend decided to tear my world apart. If she thought I'd just disappear quietly, she was dead wrong. This was just the beginning. Do you want me to go on? The next morning was a blur of adrenaline and icy determination. I woke up with a pounding headache, probably from the sleepless night, but my mind was clear. I needed to think fast. The house felt different, emptier, like the walls were closing in. I couldn't stay there. Not in that same space where they had been so brazen, so careless. First thing, I grabbed my phone. I needed evidence, facts, proof, so I could confront her with everything. I had to be sure, had to have something concrete. I remembered the small camera I used for security around the house. I wouldn't need long to check if it had picked up anything. I slipped into the living room and found the camera's SD card. Heart pounding, I plugged it into my laptop. What I saw made my stomach churn. There were clips from the night before, clear as day. Her on the bed, her hair a wild mess, her face flushed, caught in the act, her body pressed against someone I thought was my friend. The recordings were grainy but unmistakable. Every touch, every whispered word, they were all there, proof enough to break her apart. I felt my hands trembling as I watched. It wasn't just the betrayal that burned, it was the sense of powerlessness I'd felt standing outside the door. Now I had the evidence. I could destroy her reputation, make her regret ever crossing that line. But I knew I had to be smart. Revenge couldn't be sloppy. I had to plan it so she'd feel every ounce of what she'd done. I stayed in that zone all morning, compiling everything. The photos, the videos, the texts I found on her phone, the messages that confirmed this had been going on for weeks. She'd been sneaking around, lying to my face, and I'd never suspected a thing. That was the worst part, how well she'd hidden it. By late afternoon, I'd formulated a plan. It was simple but effective. I wasn't going to confront her directly, at least not yet. Instead, I'd send her a message, one that would shake her up just enough. I wanted her to see I knew everything, that I wasn't some naive fool. But I also wanted to make sure she understood that I'd have the last word. I typed out a short message on my phone. "We need to talk. Soon." Then I attached the most damning photo I had, her on the bed, her face flushed, my best friend's hand wrapped around her waist. As much as I wanted her to feel the weight of betrayal, I knew this was only the beginning. I slipped the phone into my pocket and headed out. I needed to find leverage, something she wouldn't expect. Maybe a hidden camera in the house or a way to catch her off guard again. I decided to check the garage next. She'd been acting weird lately, coming in late, avoiding me. Maybe she'd slipped up somewhere. In the garage, I found a small, unlocked cabinet I'd never paid much attention to. Inside, I discovered a box filled with receipts, hotel key cards, and another phone she'd been hiding. Heart pounding harder, I turned it on. The messages there, more proof of her lies, plans, rendezvous. She'd been sneaking out, keeping secrets even from her own phone. I sat on the garage floor, clutching the phone. My vision blurred with a mix of fury and despair. How deep had this gone? Was I even married to the woman I thought I knew? Every detail, every lie she'd told was piling up. I knew I had to do something bold, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. As I sat there, I made my decision. I'd give her the chance to come clean. But if she didn't, I'd turn everything over to the people who mattered, her friends, her family, anyone who could see her for what she was. I wanted her to understand that betrayal had consequences. I was going to make sure she paid. I looked at the clock. A plan was starting to take shape, one that would expose her completely. I had to act fast. The fallout would be huge. She'd never see it coming. I grabbed my phone again, ready to send that message. I could feel my pulse racing, my palms sweaty. The moment of truth was near. I just had to press send. "Do you want me to continue?" That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at my phone, replaying everything I'd uncovered. The evidence was piling up, and I knew I had to strike when she was most vulnerable. I'd been patient, gathering everything piece by piece, but now it was time for action. I wasn't going to give her the chance to hide anymore. Before I made my move, I decided to do one last check. I went through her phone again, carefully, to make sure I hadn't missed anything. I wanted to be precise. Every message, every photo, every sign of her deceit. It was disgusting how easily she'd lied to my face, how she'd spun her web of betrayal right under my nose. I found a new message thread from just a few days earlier. She was planning a secret meetup with him, my best friend. They'd been talking late at night, making arrangements, probably deciding how they'd carry on behind my back. I felt my stomach twist. The betrayal was deeper than I'd even thought. I closed her phone, my fingers trembling. I had everything I needed now. I knew exactly what she was doing, where she'd be, and how to make her understand that I wasn't going to take this lying down. I thought about confronting her that night, but I decided to wait. Let her stew. Let her think I didn't know. I sent the message I'd written earlier. "We need to talk, soon." I didn't specify when or where. I just wanted her to know that I was onto her, that I knew everything. I wanted her to feel the pressure, the weight of her lies. The response came quicker than I expected. She texted back, trying to sound innocent, too innocent. "What's wrong, babe? Can we talk tomorrow?" I could practically hear her fake concern through the screen. I ignored it. I wasn't ready to hear her lies just yet. Instead, I started planning my next move. I knew she'd be out the next evening, supposedly visiting her sister. That was when I decided to set the trap. I wanted her to think I was unaware, to believe she could keep sneaking around. That way, I'd catch her in the act again, this time with no way out. I arranged to be out of the house that evening, claiming I had an early meeting. My plan was simple. I'd leave the house, but I'd hide nearby, watching her, waiting for her to slip up again. I wanted to see her face when she thought she was getting away with it, and I wanted to be ready to confront her in the moment. I felt the cold rush of anticipation as I slipped out the door, leaving my phone behind so she wouldn't suspect anything. I parked a few blocks away, behind some trees, and kept my eyes on the house. The night was eerily quiet, the streetlights casting long shadows. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then it happened. Around 9 p.m. I saw her sneak out the back door, clad in a hoodie and leggings, looking over her shoulder. She knew I was watching, but she kept going. She got into a car, a sleek black one I didn't recognize, and pulled away. I was frozen in place. The evidence I'd been waiting for had just arrived, right into my hands. I followed her at a distance, feeling a mixture of rage and clarity. I knew where she was headed, probably to meet him again. The thought made me want to scream. I stayed in the shadows, quiet as a ghost. I didn't want her to see me. I needed her to keep going, to think she was free. When she finally parked at that rundown motel on the edge of town, I slipped out of my car and circled around to the back. I didn't go inside, but I watched from a safe distance through a crack in the window. Her and him, in a small room, the unmistakable signs of intimacy. They hadn't even bothered to hide it anymore. That's when I knew I had everything I needed. The pieces fit together perfectly, and I felt my resolve tighten. She had been cheating. Sneaking, lying, she'd betrayed everything I believed in, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. The next step was clear. I had to confront her face to face, not just with words, but with proof she couldn't deny. I'd make her face her actions and accept the consequences. I could feel the anger boiling in my chest, but I kept it in check. Calm, calculated, those were the keys now. I got back into my car, took a deep breath, and started heading home. Tomorrow, I'd have my moment. She would see that I wasn't the kind of man who'd let her lie and cheat without consequence, and I'd make damn sure she realized what she'd lost. Do you want me to continue? The morning after I watched her slip away in that motel, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. Every muscle ached, my stomach was tied in knots, but there was a strange clarity to it all. I knew what I had to do next. No more waiting, no more hiding. She'd pushed me to the edge, and now I was going to make sure she paid. I got up early, brewed a strong coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. I stared at the phone, knowing I'd have to confront her soon. The evidence was all there, photos, videos, texts, and I knew she'd try to deny everything. But I wasn't planning on talking her way out of this. I wanted her to understand that I had the upper hand now. I composed a message, short and cold. "We need to talk, now." I sent it without hesitation. It was abrupt, direct, and she would understand I wasn't playing any games. I knew her better than she thought. She'd probably try to come up with some excuse, but I didn't care. This was her final warning. While I waited, I started packing a small bag. Not because I had anywhere specific to go, but because I needed to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. I had to be prepared to cut her out of my life for good. I also grabbed the folder I'd prepared with all the evidence, screenshots, videos, receipts. I wasn't going to give her a chance to spin her lies or manipulate the situation. When she finally texted back, her words were tentative, almost trembling. "What's going on? Can we just talk this through?" I knew she was trying to sound innocent, but I wasn't buying it. I replied simply, "No, I want to see you face to face. Come home now." A few minutes later, she showed up, looking nervous, eyes darting around. She hesitated at the door, then stepped inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, I could see the guilt etched into her face. She knew she'd been caught, and her attempt to look calm was just a mask. I didn't waste time. I pulled out the folder of evidence, laid it on the table between us. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady but cold. "You betrayed me with my best friend. Do you want to tell me what the hell you were thinking?" Her face paled, her hands trembling. I didn't mean for it to happen," she started, but I cut her off. "Save it, I have the proof. You've been sneaking around, lying, pretending to be something you're not." I pushed the photos and videos closer. This is everything. How long has this been going on? She looked down, tears welling in her eyes. It was a mistake. I was feeling lonely and I guess I didn't think it would come to this. Her voice cracked. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I felt my fists clenched so tight I thought I'd break my nails, but I kept my voice even. Sorry doesn't cut it. You tore my trust apart and I don't see how we can fix this. Not after what I saw. My stomach twisted painfully, but I pushed through. You lied right up until I caught you. And I've decided I can't stay with someone who does that. Her shoulders sagged and she looked like she was about to break. So this is it, she whispered. You're leaving. I nodded slowly, trying to keep my anger in check. Yeah, I am. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with the betrayal. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry or scream, but I felt the rising storm inside me. You had your chance. You threw it all away. I grabbed the folder, stood up, and handed her a set of keys. Here, your stuff. I want you to leave tonight. Don't bother trying to contact me or come back. This is over. My voice was firm, final. She looked at the keys, then at me, tears streaming down her face. Please, she begged, don't do this. We can fix it. I love you. I shook my head. Love doesn't cheat, doesn't lie. You lost that when you decided to betray everything we had. I turned away before she could say more. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness as I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. I knew what I was doing was right, but it didn't make it any easier. I closed the door behind me, feeling the weight of her betrayal lift just a little. It was done. No more lies, no more hiding. I'd walk away from this, rebuild myself, and leave her to deal with the fallout. As I stepped into the street, I realized I felt lighter somehow. I'd take my life back, piece by piece, and I'd never look back. That's when I made my decision. I was going to move forward, no matter how much. It hurt now, because staying would just mean letting her win, and I wasn't about to let her do that. Do you want me to continue? The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. Walking out that door with her keys in hand felt like ripping out a piece of my own heart. Every time I thought about her, I'd feel that sick jolt in my stomach like I'd swallowed nails. But I knew I'd made the right choice. Staying wouldn't erase what she'd done, and it wouldn't fix the pain I carried now. I kept busy, packing up my things, making arrangements for a new place. I didn't want to linger in that house, haunted by memories and her betrayal. My mind was constantly racing. How could she have done this? How could my closest friend betray me like that? The anger simmered just below the surface, ready to explode if I wasn't careful. But I also knew I had to be smarter than her. Revenge wasn't just about hurting her. It was about making sure she understood she had lost something irreplaceable. I started working on a plan, one that would send her a message she'd never forget. I needed her to feel the pain, the betrayal, the fallout of her actions. First, I reached out to some mutual friends I trusted, people who knew both of them. I told them everything, showed them the evidence, and asked them to help me spread the word. Not to ruin her completely, but enough to make her realize she'd gone too far. I wanted her to know that the world was watching her now, and her reputation was in the dirt. I also started setting up a few small traps. Nothing illegal, just strategic moves that would cause her some discomfort. A few anonymous messages, subtle hints that I knew what she'd been up to, sprinkled around her social circles. I made sure to keep my distance, let her stew in her guilt. I didn't want her to know I was behind it, at least not yet. One night, I slipped a hidden recording device into her mailbox. It was a tiny, almost invisible gadget I bought online. I knew she'd start trying to contact him again, and I wanted to catch her red-handed. Sure enough, a week later, I got a notification that she'd been talking to him, planning their next rendezvous. Her voice, her words sealed her fate. That was the moment I realized I had enough. I was ready to confront her again, this time with everything laid out on the table. I planned to do it in a way that would leave her no room to deny. I wanted her to see she'd pushed me to the edge, and now I was coming back with a vengeance. I arranged a meeting at a local coffee shop where I knew she'd show up. I took my evidence, screenshots of her messages, the recordings, the photos from the motel, everything ready to be displayed. I wanted her to understand that I'd been patient, that I'd been watching, that I knew every lie, every betrayal. When she arrived, her face a mix of guilt and defensiveness, I didn't waste any time. I pulled out my phone and started playing the recordings. Her voice filled the small cafe, loud enough for her to hear herself clearly. Her eyes widened as she listened, realizing I had her dead to rights. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady, cold. "You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did. And now I want you to understand what you've lost." I paused, letting her hear the truth. "You kissed my trust goodbye the night you decided to cheat." She looked down, silent, tears streaming down her face. Her hands trembled, and I saw the moment she realized she'd lost everything: her husband, her reputation, the little bit of dignity she had left. "I'm done," I told her. "From this point on, I want nothing to do with you. I want you to leave, and I want you to understand the gravity of what you did." I pushed the folder of evidence across the table. "You can try to deny it, but it's all here. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal." She looked at the evidence, then back at me, defeated. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "I love you, please don't do this," but I shook my head. "Love doesn't cheat, love doesn't lie, and I'm not going to stay and be a victim of your lies anymore." I handed her the keys I'd kept in my pocket. "This is your notice, you're done. I want you out by tonight." She looked at me, her eyes pleading, her voice breaking. "Please." "No," I interrupted sharply. "It's over. I don't want to hear another word." I got up, feeling a strange mixture of relief and cold resolve. "Take your things, leave this house, don't contact me again." As she gathered her stuff, I stepped outside, feeling the cool night air hit my face. I already felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. I'd done what I needed to do. No more lies, no more betrayal, just the truth, plain and brutal. Walking away from her, I knew I'd be okay, because I'd refused to be her victim, and I'd make damn sure she remembered the day she lost everything by her own hand. "Do you want me to go on?" The house was eerily silent after she left. I stood there in the doorway, watching her pack her things, feeling the raw ache of betrayal twist deeper inside me. The weight of everything, her lies, the secret rendezvous, the weeks of sneaking around, hit me like a punch to the gut. But beneath that, a strange sense of relief started to settle. I had finally taken control. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. The adrenaline was wearing off, and all I could feel now was exhaustion, physical and emotional. But I knew I'd done what I needed to do. The truth was out, and she couldn't twist it or deny it anymore. That was the victory I clung to. As she finished gathering her final things, she looked at me one last time, eyes filled with regret and desperation. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice cracking like old glass. "I never meant for everything to fall apart." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Sorry doesn't fix what you did. Sorry doesn't erase the betrayal. I hope you remember that." I handed her the last set of keys, then stepped back. It was done. She hesitated, then turned to leave, shoulders slumped, tears streaking her face. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of anger, disgust, and strangely freedom. I finally understood that no matter how much it hurt, I was better off without her lies, without her betrayal. When I closed the door behind her, I made a conscious choice. I wasn't going to let this define me. I'd rebuild. I'd find happiness again, even if it took time. I was done being a victim of deception. I was the one in control now. The silence in the house was deafening, but I took comfort in that emptiness. It meant I could finally breathe without her shadow looming over me. I made a promise to myself to never let anyone get that close again unless they proved they could be trustworthy. My trust was hard-earned, and I'd be damned if I let her or anyone else take it lightly. I went to the living room, sat down on the couch, and looked around at the space she'd once filled with her presence. Now it felt different, clean, empty, almost healing. I pulled out the evidence folder I'd kept hidden just in case. I looked through everything one last time, sealing the memories of her betrayal. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about closure. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. I knew I'd be okay. I always had been. This was just another chapter in a story I was finally ready to close. I stood up, grabbed the keys, and walked out the door for good. As I stepped into the night, I realized that I'd taken control of my life again. No more secrets, no more lies, no more being manipulated. Revenge had been sweet, but moving on felt even better. I'd learned a hard lesson that sometimes you have to fight to protect yourself, even if it means breaking everything apart first. And now I was ready to start fresh, to rebuild what I'd lost, and to trust again on my own terms. That night I drove away from that house with a clear mind and a determined heart. I knew I'd find happiness again, maybe not here, maybe not today, but someday. And no one, not even her, could take that away from me anymore. The betrayal blinded me for a while, but now I see it as a brutal lesson. Trust carefully and guard your heart fiercely. Because once it's broken, it's damn hard to put back together. But I'll be stronger for this. And I'll never forget, I am in control now.